Hi, and welcome to Best in Tesla. It is the 22nd of April. That means Happy Earth Day, everybody. And this year's theme is Invest in Your Planet. So I thought I would do a little video to celebrate Earth Day and talk a little about the things I hear most about the EV revolution, and that is the grid can't handle it. But I think people are forgetting we are not just having a revolution to go from ICE to EVs, we are also in the beginning of an energy revolution that will change the whole industry, and it will grow together with the electric car. The grid, the charging network, the mining for materials, it will all grow together. So let's check it all out and let's dive right in. And people that have been following my channel for a long time, or maybe have become a patron of mine, will know that I plant a tree for every patron that pays more than $5. Because I want to plant 1,000 trees, because that would pretty much make me a carbon neutral person, because 1,000 trees would offset the CO2 emission from an average person. But now I've found an even faster and easier way to become carbon neutral. And that is thanks to today's sponsor, Klima. That is an app that can help you go climate neutral. With an affordable monthly subscription, you can plant trees, promote green energy projects, and improve lives around the globe. So that is pretty cool. The app will calculate what your carbon footprint is depending on your lifestyle, means of transportation, and so on, so they can find out how much carbon you need to offset. And if you don't want to, you don't have to worry about what project to support to do so. Klima is doing all that for you. While we wait for our government to take climate action seriously, you can do your part for the planet right now with Klima. Because 72% of CO2 emission are addressable by consumers' behavior. So individual action has a truly gigantic potential in the fight against global warming. Klima's mission is to unleash that potential and empower millions to act as a united force for the planet. And with the app, you don't just get the power to offset your carbon footprint, but you can also learn how to lower your carbon footprint as well. So Klima has really made it easy for everyone to help fight the climate crisis. So join me and go carbon neutral with Klima today. And in honor of Earth Month and Earth Day, you will get 10 extra trees planted in your name. Just click the link below in the description and enter my code BESTINTESLA10 to claim your trees and take immediately climate action. Let's make our planet a greener place for all of us today. So even though Ford's Model T came out in 1908 and was a disruption to the transportation sector, well, in 1920, when millions of cars were sold every year in America, there were still only 15,000 gas stations in the US, over 30 years after the ICE car was invented. But only 10 years later than that, in 1930, there was more than 100,000 gas stations. So in the first 30 years, they put up 15 gas stations, and in the next 10 years, they put up 75,000. So things tend to speed up when people get the memo of what the new thing is, and they can actually see they can earn some money. That tends to move things along. And we have already seen BP say they are getting close to where they will rather put up a charger than putting up new fuel pumps, because it's starting to become more profitable for them to fill up a battery than a gas tank. So I'm not so worried about there not being enough EV chargers, because so many companies are scrambling to put up more chargers And here in Europe we do see more gas stations putting up chargers as well as hotels and workplaces and so on. So just as when the car took over from the horse, it will take time, but in the end it will speed up. And we went from 11% cars to 81% cars in just 13 years. And we built the whole transportation infrastructure at the same time as the car market grew. And that was a much bigger task than just putting up chargers. And even the First World War could not stop this disruption from happening. And with Tesla wanting to triple their charging network over the next 2 years, and countless others wanting to build more charging stations and more hotels and shopping malls and workplaces, grocery stores, public parking places and home chargers are being put up all the time, I'm not so worried about the charging network not growing fast enough to keep up with the fast growth of EVs. It will of course not be perfect everywhere, but it will grow together. But then there are of course the worries about the grid not being able to handle the load of all those millions of cars charging at all these chargers. But again, we also have to look at what is being developed and not only look at what we have today and think that is what we will have in 10 years' time. This will also change dramatically, and it already is. And firstly, it is not like everyone will just be charging at once. Most house owners will probably also be charging at night anyway, when nobody's really using the grid, also because that would be the cheapest for the EV owners to do so. So that will not really hurt the grid. And many house owners are even getting solar panels and battery storage systems, pretty much taking them off the grid. And not just Tesla products, but a lot of companies are getting in on the action, like here in Denmark where we don't have Tesla Powerwalls yet. We are already seeing many people getting installed solar panels and battery storage systems. So again, this will actually help the grid, not hurt the grid. And one thing I also think people are forgetting, that an average central air conditioning system will use 3,000 to 5,000 watts of power for around 9 hours a day during the hottest months, where an EV uses an average of 7,000 watts. But take me for example, I drive about 40,000 kilometers a year, but I charge my car up for about an average of 2 hours a day, probably a little less. So my car, which charges at night, uses about 7,000 watts, but only for a couple of hours, where an AC system will use 3,000 to 5,000 watts, but for 9 hours. And 84% of homes in the US have some type of air conditioning. It is estimated that the US uses more air conditioning than all other countries combined. Air conditioning releases some 100 million tons of carbon dioxide into the air each year, or about 2 tons per home. So these machines are harming our grid and air much more than electric cars. And there is about 100 million homes with air conditioning systems, and there is about 285 million cars on the road that have to become EVs at some point. So I do think the grid can actually handle all of these EVs charging during the night and some during the day, because it's not going to be much different than the whole country turning on their AC system during the whole day. But again, the more business and homes that are getting solar panels and battery system, the less air conditions and EVs are actually using the grid, but will all just run on sunshine off grid. And as we have seen Tesla working on in South Australia and in California, their new virtual power plant systems, by connecting all of these power walls, that will also help stabilize the grid and not hurting it. That is like the whole community is becoming a power plant itself. And we know Tesla wants to make all their charging stations run on renewables as well. And we have already seen more and more charging stations being built with solar farms and battery storage. Like for example Gridserve, that is making charging stations all over the UK, but it's also building these huge forecourts with many chargers for all kinds of EVs that are all supported by sustainable energy. They have one of the biggest charging forecourts in the UK right now, and construction is underway on 2 more EV forecourts which are due to open here in 2022, and they aim to have 100 of these huge forecourts in the UK over the next 10 years, all supported by sustainable energy, on top of all that normal charging station all over the country as well. So a lot of things are already being worked on to help the grid by making all these microgrids that will power charging stations, hotels, companies, small communities with virtual power plant, and much more. We will have a lot more small power plants everywhere, virtual power plants helping out the grid, and fewer big power plants that have to make energy to a whole city or state. And also because we kind of have to, because most of us has signed the Paris Agreement and have to become CO2 neutral by 2050 anyway. So I really think people are forgetting that the energy business is also being disrupted. It is not just the car business. And according to Tony Seba from Rethink, we will not just fix the old grid. We will make it much better, and renewables will not just be something we have to do because of the climate crisis. It will be so much better and cheaper down the road that we will have an abundance of energy, like we have seen with some of the big batteries Tesla has made around the world that paid themselves off in just 2 years, because it didn't just save the customers money, but it also saved the energy companies a lot of money when they didn't have to turn on these big coal and gas power plant to send more energy into the grid at peak hours. And we know that Tesla cannot even keep up with the demand that is for these batteries now, as more and more energy companies are starting to see how beneficial these big battery plants are financially. So this is not going to take off just because it's greener with renewable energy and storage, but it will save us all money, and therefore it will inevitably catch on like wildfire. And that is why Tesla has built a new mega factory that will only be pumping out mega packs for grid scale battery systems, like the one that just got turned on in Elkhorn, which is one of the largest utility owned lithium ion battery energy storage system in the world, with its 730 megawatt hours of storage. And Tesla's new factory will be able to produce about 4,000 megawatt hours a year. And this is of course just Tesla, but there are so many other battery manufacturers that are making big grid scale storage systems as well. So we have to remember, when we talk about the future and what will happen in the EV market and to the grid, when we in 10 years will have hundreds of millions of EVs on the road, to also think about what technologies would actually be available in 10 years time from now. And that is actually the hard part, because there will probably even be stuff we don't even know about yet at that point. And people also talk about the lack of materials for batteries, like we don't have enough materials for making 65 million EVs a year anyway. No, not yet. We can't even build 65 million EVs yet, even if we had all the materials for those batteries. We still need to ramp everything up and build the whole infrastructure like we did with the ICE car, but that also includes the mining of materials. And yes, that does take a lot of time, but there is also a very big incentive for every mining company on the planet to grow their business as fast as possible, because right now there's pretty much an endless demand for the product they sell. So believe me, they want to do this and want to do it fast. As Elon just said at the earnings call, the mining companies that are mining lithium have pretty much a 90% gross margin. So they are pretty much just printing money. So they will grow together with the EV market. But yes, that will probably be the limiting factor of how fast the EV revolution can happen. But it will happen, and it will happen fast. So I don't think we need to worry too much about the charging network not being good enough. It will grow and only start to grow faster, and the grid will also only get better and dramatically change from how it is today over the next decade. It is not just the car that is being disrupted, so is the entire energy sector. And I know we still see articles about EVs not being good for the environment, but I have already made a couple of videos explaining this, and so many others has also made videos about it, so I will not get into that in this video. But I will leave a link down below to my videos on this topic and links to others that have made some great videos about this topic as well. So if you're still in doubt about that, go check them out. But happy Earth Day, everybody, and don't forget we all need to do our part, and you can make it easy with the Klima app. So don't forget to download that app and use my code to plant some more trees. And thank you for watching. And until next time, take care out there and be nice.